I'm just fascinated by this thing here over at the Bethesda booth at E3. We've just seen a demo of Dishonored, and we've got this thing going here where you can actually check out some of the, well, I guess, iconic items that you'll come across in the game. Can you tell us a little bit about this one, first of all? What's this?
So this is Corvo's mask, and it serves two purposes in the world of Dishonored. In the first place, as soon as when the player starts the game, he's been wrongfully accused of murdering the Empress of the city of Dunwall. And so once he's free and he starts the difficult task of clearing his name and getting revenge, one of his allies makes this mask for him so that he can be anonymous, and also so that he can terrorize his enemies a little bit. And then the other purpose is it has a little bit of technology in it. It allows the player to zoom in on and sort of spy on people with it. And if you zoom in on two people who are having a conversation, you can hear what they're talking about. You can peep through keyholes, things like that.
Very handy.
Yeah.
The cable car here.
Yeah, so, you know, Dishonored takes place in the city of Dunwall, and it is a city that we invented from the ground up. And the idea is it's sort of this whaling town. It's kind of like an industrial era, but it's an alternate history. And it's all based on this whaling industry, and there's this layer of alternate technology. And so some of the people that are rich enough are able to afford some of this power, and they can get around the city in these cable cars. And so you'll see a couple of these if you're exploring the streets of Dishonored.
I think we saw something in that cinematic trailer.
Yeah, one of these is in the trailer, and you can see one of the very pompous nobles, you know, sniffing at the poor people.
Just looking at him, I wanted to kill him.
Yeah, he deserves to die, right?
So turn it one more time, and we get the hearts.
That's right. The heart is kind of a mysterious object in the game. So, you know, Dishonored is this interesting blend of technology and magic, and the heart kind of is a good example of that. It's a device that allows the player to detect the location of magical objects. And if the player finds these objects, he can upgrade his powers and upgrade some of his abilities. And in addition to that, if you aim the heart at people, it actually whispers secrets about them.
So it sort of serves several purposes, and it's also this sort of in-game economy then that you use for this.
Exactly.
And I think we got one more thing to cover. If we turn this around, oh yeah, this makes me think of Half-Life, really.
Yeah. So this is the Tall Boy. So funny story though. The origins of this guy is we were looking at lamplighters. So these are these guys who in old London, they would walk around on stilts and light the lamps that were really tall. And we looked at those guys and we were like, wouldn't it be really cool if somebody repurposed this kind of person for a military purpose? And so, you know, the city of Dunwall is overrun with plague. There's rats everywhere. There's these people called weepers everywhere. So this guy can kind of stand above all the muck and the mire and get rid of people that are in his way.
In the demo, we got to see like an area that was flooded and that used to be posh, and where people are now infected, and that these guys were running around. And sort of this world seems very sort of organic and cool in that sense. It's something that you just want to dive right into, but it's also kind of hard to explain it to someone when you sit there and you're trying to get sort of a view of what Dunwall is about. So can you try and tell us a little bit more about the city?
Well, you know, we've been working on this game for a little bit over 3 years now, and when we first started working on the look and feel of the city, the history of the city, we started with historical stuff, right? So we looked at London, and we started there. We looked at like the 1600s and like the great fires that happened there and the plagues that happened there, and that was sort of our inspiration. And our art director, Sebastian Mitton, and our visual director, Anton Sokolov, they went on all kinds of really fun field trips that the rest of us didn't get to go on to study architecture and get lots of cool reference. And so we built this alternate history and this alternate city from the ground up from those inspirations. And you know, when the game takes place, the city is basically in a very dire circumstance. The Empress sent you away to try to get help from some of the other islands, because the game is actually the game world is much bigger than the city the game takes place in. You know, and hopefully we'll get a chance to explore those other places, you know, in the future. But when the game starts, the city is in very dire circumstances. It's beset with a really, really horrible plague. There's rats everywhere, and the player gets kind of thrown in the middle of all that stuff, and throughout the game you'll get to explore a lot of the districts. Some of the richer, you'll go from one extreme to the other. There's one mission that takes place in the very elite, sophisticated part of town where everything's walled off and the rich people don't have to worry about the plague or the rats until you show up. And then at one point, like you saw, the player ends up in the very worst part of town called the Flooded District, where mostly you see these tall boys who are sent there to wipe out and exterminate these weepers and make sure they don't get into the city.
So I think one of the themes here for the presentation at E3 was the sort of duality of playing stealthily or going full out with all the different powers at your disposal, because you have a lot of powers. You can really go nuts in there and do a lot of crazy things, and I think that's going to appeal to some gamers. Well, there seems to be a reward to playing stealthily as well. And how do you balance that? Is there, because you don't want to have a right and a wrong, right?
Right. Yeah, you know, we definitely, when we started, we didn't want it to be the case that if you mess up stealth, that's like a game over or a fail, right? In fact, if you're trying to be stealthy and you mess up stealth, let's say you get caught by the guards, that's actually another we wanted to make sure that was another very fun state of the game to be in. It's a very exciting state and a very dangerous state, but it's nonetheless a totally valid part of the game. And you know, if you're the player, some people use stealth for different reasons, right? Some people use stealth so that they can be super sneaky and avoid any confrontation whatsoever. They want to be the guys who come in like ghosts and they're never seen. Other people use stealth to actually set up a kill. That's the way I like to play, which is like I'm sneaky up to the point that I see some guys that I want to take out, and then all hell breaks loose. And so we want that to be just as fun. You know, some people get into a big altercation after getting busted, and they use their powers to escape. And then the game calms back down and they can go back into stealth mode again.
So I think what's interesting is it's not just powers, but you can combine them in many ways, and it seems like that's almost a sandbox element to what you can do there, really. And can you sort of give us some examples of how that can be?
Yeah, you know, that's one of the really fun and excruciating parts of making a game like this, is just being surprised by all the ways that players combine their powers. And it's also, I think, what makes the game special. And you know, like I can remember the very first time somebody used the double jump power, which lets you go really high vertically, with the blink power in combination. You know, it takes a little bit of finesse to pull it off, but you can like sprint across a rooftop, double jump into the air, and then blink across. And the first time we saw somebody do that, they bypassed like several security checkpoints, and we were like, oh my gosh, there goes, you know, 20, 30 minutes of gameplay in 2 seconds. Like, but you know, and we had the discussion like, how do we control this? And in the end we concluded like, no, we should totally allow this, because the player who figured that out, it's not easy to do. And the player who figured out is super proud, you know, like.
It's gonna put it on YouTube.
Exactly. So there you go. That's our philosophy.
All right. So Dishonored is actually coming out pretty soon?
Yeah, you should look for Dishonored on October 9th. It's going to be on PC, Xbox 360, PlayStation 3.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.